Welcome back to the Breaking Down Walls podcast. I am Jill from Bare By Barrile, here with my co-host Natalie Krugmeyer. And today we are opening up a conversation that might make some people a little curious, maybe a little confrontational, and hopefully a lot more open-minded. In this episode, we're exploring something that sits right at the intersection of culture, sexuality, and the human body, nudity. More specifically, we're talking about two spaces where nudity shows up in very different ways: saunas and sex clubs. In many parts of Europe, communal nudity in saunas is completely normal and connected to health and wellness. But in American culture, nudity often gets immediately tied to sexuality or taboo. So today we're asking the question, what walls have we built around the naked body? And what happens when we start to take a closer look at them? We'll dive into the cultural history of sauna culture, the roots of sexual liberation, and the modern world of sex clubs, including some personal experiences that completely changed our own assumptions. This conversation is curious, honest, and at times a little spicy, but at its core, it's really about body acceptance, consent, freedom, and understanding the stories our culture tells us about nudity and pleasure. So whether this topic feels exciting, confronting, or totally new to you, take a breath, stay curious, and let's break down some walls. Hey, good morning. Good morning. It might not be morning where you are, but it's morning where I am. Good morning. We're jumping in to the Breaking Down Walls podcast, season 2, episode 2. Today, we're going to be talking about saunas, sex clubs, and nudity.
Hell yeah. These are things that I have almost never really talked about before, so it's super fun to just dive right into this conversation. These are things I'm still working on getting used to, so let's go.
Yeah, and I think it's a great way to jump into season 2 because we said it's going to be a little more unscripted, a little more raw, and we want to jump into something that's really interesting and that we both have a little bit of information already on, and experience on. So I'm excited to dive into this. I'm excited to dive into this today, and see how we feel about it at the end. Because I feel like I have an idea of how I feel about it right now, but I'm excited to learn more because we did research.
We did. I'm pretty proud of us for that.
I know, and it was actually very fun. I feel like it's informed me in ways where I felt that way about certain things. When it comes to I worked on the sex club part, but getting a little bit more information honestly felt really more empowering to kind of dive into that topic. How about you?
Before we start, let's maybe do a little temperature check of where we both stand on it before the conversation.
I like that. That's a good one. That's a good one. Okay.
So Jill, you're a boudoir photographer. You see people nude or nude adjacent all the time.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on nudity and public, mixed gender nudity, sex clubs, etc., saunas? They're very different, by the way. Saunas and sex clubs are extremely different, and that's another thing I'm really excited to talk about because American brains, we group it all together, but that'll be fun to sort of differentiate. But what are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, no, you're right. And I feel yes, I see a lot of nudity and all body types in my work often. And it's definitely, I would say if it was me 5 years ago, I would be at a completely different place saying I probably don't think I would feel as comfortable with these spaces. Definitely with myself. I would say in today's, what I've learned after having a baby, I feel helps with nudity as well. And I think having seen so many bodies, it definitely has. I think getting naked in front of people in general still would feel scary to me, but more open to it. So I guess on a temperature scale, I'm pretty open. I would say I'm pretty open at this point. And especially if they're strangers. If people don't know me, I like the anonymous piece of it.
You prefer anonymity.
Anonymity. I know. I'm really that word.
Anonymous.
I think for me, like that actually helps. Interestingly enough, I don't know. And I would say saunas. I don't know if I've ever been to a sauna where there has been nudity, both genders, and it's like a more relaxed, just come in and sauna environment. So I don't have a lot of experience in that, to be honest. I don't know
Yeah,
how
I
it
don't
feels.
have a lot of experience either, but I do have some experience. And nothing has confronted my American brain more than that experience being in, first of all, an Italian sauna and then in a German
Mm.
sauna. But European saunas, for the most part, are the same, where you'll have a towel on for some of it, but there's other parts of it where you're just like completely in the nude, running around with other people who are completely in the nude. And I'm excited to get into this because so much of the what is happening
Yeah.
is it's
Yeah.
cultural, it's societal. Yeah.
It's like making me curious around like what do you think the wall is? Or maybe we talk about this later, but like kind of idea before we jump into it, like I wonder what the wall is that people may be battling. And that's something maybe we'll kind of like talk more at the end about. But
Oh no, we're gonna talk about it right up front.
what's the wall? What's the wall that we
I will
have?
tell you what the wall is because it's
Okay, tell me.
completely fascinating. So I want to talk a little bit first about like the history of sauna culture in general in Europe. And it's actually on the older side. I was kind of surprised because when I moved to Germany, and I went, for the very first time, I went with my family so my husband and his mom and
Oh,
brother-in-law and just like a bunch of people who all went ice bathing together, like naked or almost naked. And I was like, well, this is interesting. Like, this is definitely nothing that we would ever do in America. Maybe some parts of America. And
yeah.
obviously, I don't want to generalize the whole country, but in general, it's not something you're going to do on a Easter afternoon, like after you have your cake and coffee.
We had brunch, we had mimosas, we all got naked, we got in the sauna.
100%, yes. And so with my husband's family, it's usually going ice bathing in the winter or like some sort of cold plunge. Like there's just like a lot of like cold plunge culture here and people get excited to do that. And so I just remember the first time I went and I'm just observing and I'm like, y'all are real comfy with each other. Like this is I'm really okay. This is what it is, right?
Yeah.
And it is a little bit of a culture shock because you would never in a million years imagine cold plunging with your naked dad. Like that just would never happen.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. And here, super normal. So when this all happened, I remember having a conversation with my husband about it, and he was saying how back in the 1970s, like his dad especially was like super for the like, as many public spaces that you can be nude as possible. Like apparently everyone was running around naked in Germany in the 1970s, and it was like this whole revolutionary thing for the whole country. So that was when I thought it started, but it's actually not when it started. All of this like embracing nudity and naturalism actually began at in the late 1800s. And the entire focus was on health. There was this ideology that being naked out in nature is just extremely good for you in general. To have the sun on your skin, to have the breeze, to jump in cold water and then come out and lay, in the sunshine, and to have just that like full body activation connection to the natural world. And there's actually a like whole culture around it, which is the Freikörperkultur, which basically means the free body culture. And it's been, especially since the 1920s, like really, really rooted in health and wellness in Germany. And so if you are ever out and about in Germany anywhere and there's little kids around, like 90% of the time, anyone under 5 is just going to be butt naked. Like they let their children run around naked all the time out in public areas, like especially if you're by, you know, a pond or whatever, and the kids are splashing around. There's such an acceptance, and there's also this idea that like little kids should be naked a lot and they should let everything air out, and like it's really good for them. And it's kind of nice to see the kids seem to really enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you don't see that in the States very often, and when you do, it's like, oh, should you put something up? Like I think that's like a lot of people's thoughts, because that's our culture, is to hide those parts of us so often. So that's interesting. I think the 70s are going to be a very high hitting time period for both of us, actually, which is interesting. So I'm excited to talk about that. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, it's also fun to see like how these things, you know, what goes around comes around, because another topic we can discuss in the future is how these generational ideologies loop around every 80 to 100 years. And so it's interesting, like in the 1970s, globally, there was a lot of like, you know, free the nipple happening, but it had actually already happened 80 or 90 years prior in Germany. This whole like, we need freedom. And this was not only health-based at this time in Germany, it was also revolutionary socially, because there was this frustration around, why do naked bodies have to be sexual? Like they're not innately sexual. Naked bodies are naturally natural. Like they're just, there's no part of the human body that is any less important than any other part. And so why do we have to equate an entire body to sexuality, when in reality, like that's not the case at all? Like we could just as easily equate the entire body to intelligence, right? Because of our brains, but we don't. We equate it all to, it's very, very strange.
Yeah, and I think that's a whole other topic we probably could really dive into, is that like the sexualization of our bodies, and that is part of what today is, but like it is very interesting how our brains automatically, or have we been socialized to do that, you know? I don't know.
Maybe, in my opinion, and after doing this research, I do feel that it is completely socialization, because now I'm living in a culture that has collectively been comfortable with nudity and also embraced nudity as health for the last 140 years or so. And it's amazing the comfort level that people will have with their physical bodies because of this acceptance of, if you want to go to the river and you want to lay in the nude, it's fine. No one cares and no one's upset. And you can do that. And it's encouraged. And it's something that, like, it was funny to read about how when we think of a nude beach, we always think of France. But even if most of the nude beaches are in France, it's going to be covered primarily with German tourists.
That's like, so funny. Do they have nude beaches in Germany? Or all beaches nude?
From my understanding, most beaches, like some level of nudity will be accepted, and they'll let you know if it isn't. And I could be very wrong there, but like maybe also with where I live, I'm down in Bavaria, so maybe it's different depending on like where in Germany we're talking about. But in general, like I live right by the Isar, which is the big river that flows through Munich. And one of the coolest things about living in Munich is that they have a river that they keep so clean that you can swim in it. And during certain parts of the year, you can even drink the water. That's how clean it is. And so all summer long, people are jumping into this river. And most of the time, people are wearing bathing suits. It's pretty normal that you're going to be wearing a bathing suit, especially when there's a ton of people out. But I've noticed that especially during the colder months, when people are just doing like a quick cold plunge, a lot of the time they'll just strip everything down, jump in for, a minute, come out, throw their clothes back on, and continue on their way. And it doesn't matter. Like nobody bats an eye. That's just culture, and it's completely okay.
I love relating nudity to health, like reinstating that as like the norm. I think that is so important, because I do find nudity to be really like not just liberating, but like why have to like cover it up and have to like think about our bodies so much in that other way, when it could be like, my body is for health, like nudity is for health, to see each other is healthy. So that's really interesting. I wish I had a cold river near me so I could go naked and see what happens.
I wish that for you too. Well, it's also interesting in saunas specifically because if you go to a sauna in Germany, a lot of the time bathing suits are not allowed because they're seen as unhealthy. It's unhygienic to wear a bathing suit into a sauna here. And so my story with my sauna experience, the first time that I went to the one in Italy, I was actually really overwhelmed because I knew there were going to be naked people there, but like I had never experienced a room of naked bodies before, and it was just really overwhelming. Like to have never, genuinely, the only other time I could think of that I had seen naked bodies in a non-sexual capacity was when we did our figure drawing class in college, and we had that Tarzan guy. Remember him?
Yeah.
Literally looked like Tarzan. Oh, he loved figure drawing. He loved standing up in front of the class.
He had the mojo to be a figure.
He did have the mojo. He's perfect.
Yeah.
But honestly, that was like the only other time I could think of that I had been in that sort of like situation. And so I think that because the shame of bodies is so deeply ingrained in me as an American, that was another thing that was super interesting with this research was that is based in the puritanical roots of our country. Like when people came over from England to America, the reason why they were coming over was because England was like, your religion is too extreme and we just don't want it here. Like, you guys are nuts. Go find somewhere else to practice your wacky ass religion. And so where did it go? They came to America and they settled at Plymouth Rock and they started this very puritanical, very chaste, and anything that was sexual was considered immoral unless you were having sex for procreation. It was just dirty, and it was considered something that was so far away from God, and like you're just a horrible person for being sexual in any form. And that ideology informed so much of the current American culture, which is mind-blowing. It was hundreds of years ago, but it got its roots in so deep so early, and it feels like we're still fighting against that.
Yeah, I mean, it's in everywhere, I would say, in American culture, like in some way or another. And even like with my research a little bit too, it's like, the control that over the human body, and it's like there's like fear put in place and control, which is like a theme, I think, that when you I don't know the history of like starting like a country, like per se, like all the countries, maybe they all started with this like more pure thought, and it divulged into more of being a little more open-minded, I guess. But I don't know, it's very, very interesting.
Well, at the end of the day, I once heard someone say all religion is political, and I was like, whoa. And although, there are merits to religion, like that spiritual connection is very important for people, the community, the comfort, all of that. And at the same time, it is also a way to exhibit control, for sure. And so if you're constantly telling people like being sexual and having sexual urges and being naked in any way is completely indecent, and it sets you far away from God, and it makes you an immoral person, then you're going to develop shame around these parts of your body. You're going to develop shame around being a sexual creature. And hello, we're animals. It's just kind of part of the deal. Like,
I know. we all don't wear clothes. Why are we wearing clothes?
Right, exactly. And then you get into the whole Adam and Eve story and the fall from grace, because they didn't realize that they were naked until Eve ate the apple. Now all of a sudden they have to wear their little olive leaves on their genitalia because how dare they have bodies that procreate. And it's this whole thing. And religion is something I could unpack for hours. You know,
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like there's also consumerism in there as well.
Yes.
So like, which is
Exactly. And that's the point I wanted to get to is like,
yeah,
sex sells. And the more taboo sex is, the more it can sell things because there's a shock value there. And that sucks us in because it's like, wait, I haven't gotten to see this before. Like the first thing that pops into my mind is Brooke Shields with her "Nothing Gets Between Me and My Calvins" from like the 1980s. Do you remember that? And it was like such a sexy commercial. Oh my God, it was so sexy. Can't even imagine how many pairs of jeans they sold from that. But that type of taboo around sexuality is what sucks us in, and then it can be sold as a commodity when in reality it's something that's part of all of us every day, and there's not actually shame around it. It's manufactured shame that can be utilized by companies and by marketing strategies, and it's stupid.
It's so stupid. And it just makes me think, it's like if they just shamed us for things that were actually shameful, it would be a lot better. Because I talk to so many women and men that like they've gone through, like, it's like they have to rediscover like what that is and redefining it in like halfway through their life. And it's just crazy to me that especially in the States, I think that it's and I don't want to get too much into sexuality because this is not really what this is about, but like just to reclaim again the naked body for the sake of health over sexuality, I think is a really good perspective change that can just come from this in general and be like, sex is different than just nudity, and deciding that those are different things can really start to shift a culture, or at least like a mindset for yourself, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I'm so grateful that I had my second experience with the sauna, because the first one was like, oh God, that was a lot. And I actually went in a bathing suit because that particular sauna, like they weren't specific. You could either go with a bathing suit or not. So Sam and I both wore bathing suits. We saw one other person in a bathing suit, but everybody else was nude. And it created like a little bit of an imbalance. And then I also sort of felt insecure for wearing a bathing suit. And that was also, there was just a lot going on. And so it was an important first experience for me. It also really brought to my attention my ideology around nudity and wanting to realizing, okay, so I have this like very American mindset. What can I do to kind of update? So I did work on it a little bit. And really prepared myself for the second time that I went to a sauna, because I was like, okay, I know what to expect. I think I get it, and I think that I can do it this time. And so I went with my friend, and she belongs to this really gorgeous gym that has this whole entire sauna area. I was surprised how popular the sauna was. Like there were probably a good 20, 25 people in there with us.
Yeah. And these are big saunas.
They're huge. Yeah, okay. This one was really, really big. The gym is called Elements. And we went in with just our towels. And that's another thing too, like changing rooms in Europe. Like everyone just lets it all hang out. Whereas I think in America, we usually go into like our own little cubby to change, unless you're older. Like once you hit 60, it's just like a free pass. But I feel like anyone like under 60 or 50 maybe goes into like a changing room usually, but not in America, or not in Germany. I mean, everybody just, and you're just talking to your friend and you're just like, getting naked in front of each other. It's no big deal. So I'm like, okay, I can do this. Bonding. And my friend's amazing. So like, I also felt really comfortable with her, and it was nice to have someone with me who like knew what was up. So we go in just in our towels, and then there's some areas where like they have, these big pools, and then you just kind of like get in naked. So you just put your towel to the side, and then you just get in the water and get out and put the towel back on. And then for the saunas themselves, you go into like the, the steam room, like the hot room, whatever. And usually you're wearing your towel, but it's so hot in there that you're just like, take it off. It
sounds so liberating, and that's like so crazy to think like, should that like, obviously I don't like to should myself, but like it feels so liberating to just be like, I'm gonna go nude into the pool somewhere. We're like, we can't do that here. And why is it like, is that really liberating? Or are we just like caged? So
Yeah, like it
no.
was, well, one of the things that I thought was so interesting, this is men and women, by the way, and it was
Yeah.
probably about 50-50. And I did find it really funny though, because we joined a sauna right as it was starting. So there's this schedule, right? And it's like every 20 minutes they do like a 4-minute sauna or something. I don't know what the exact time is. And so you go in and you sit down and everyone around you is like naked or semi-naked with their towels around their waist. And then by semi-naked, I mean like they just either they're covering themselves with a towel or they're letting it all hang out. It doesn't really matter. And then this guy comes in and it's almost like a performance. So the guy is wearing clothes and he comes in and he like does something with the hot stones. Have you seen this?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we did two
Cool.
rounds of the sauna, and the first, they each had like a different scent to them. So the first one that we did was like a Viking one. And so it was very like masculine, and he plays like Viking music and he pours like something that kind of just smells like, you're in some 17th century
eucalyptus
or something.
Yeah.
And then he like spins the towel around so that the hot air circulates and you can't breathe. And the whole time I'm thinking to myself, why do people do this? Like, oh, but I'm telling myself it's good for me, whatever.
Yeah.
And then it ends and then everyone gets up and goes out to the showers. And so there's like a row of maybe like 8 showers. And so everyone like comes out, they hang up their towel, and then they're just all in the showers together naked. And that was probably the funniest moment for me because I'm going along with it. Like I'm doing this as well, but I'm just like, this is the weirdest activity to be doing with a group.
And like, everyone's just like, this is normal.
Everyone else is like, this is normal. I shower with strangers of all genders every day. And I'm just like, all right, weirdos.
I think a lot of us could learn a lot from that too, though.
Yeah. I mean, it felt good. Like it really did. It was funny because I was like, so out of the norm for me.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was cool because there were so many different body types. Everyone was like, for the most part, everyone was kind of in their like 30s and 40s, it seemed, which was interesting. There wasn't like a huge age gap between people. But I think it was just because it was a gym and that's kind of who they target. But it was just like some people were just like really big and some people were super tiny and everyone was chill and like no one cared. And I kind of loved that. And then you get to go into like, all these different pools and like there's different steam baths and whatever. And then you get out and you're like, okay, I guess I did something really good for my body today. That's cool.
Okay, there's so many things. I would love to know for another episode, like what Germans or like what's over there that's like, what is sexualized there? Because like for us, we like sexualize the body, and I'm kind of curious. Put a pin in that. I'm gonna write that down for later because I really am like, I'm curious, like what they have they sexualized anything?
Oh, absolutely. But it's in a completely different context. So I can tell you the answer to that. Yeah. So saunas and bathhouses are completely like wrapped in health and wellness. And so everybody goes into those spaces with the understanding that this is for health and wellness. This is not a space where we are hitting on people. This is not a space where, we're this is not a space for that. This is a space for people to go and be well and do something nice for them.
Well, it may make people feel aroused though and sexy, right? Like, I wonder.
Okay, that could be something to look into. Because I did ask those questions before I went in, and it seemed in general that the consensus was you might get looked at. You'll probably get looked at, but you won't get approached. You won't like people know better than to make it weird. And I did have someone make it weird though, and I just remember being like, y'all told me this was gonna happen. And then of course my friend was like, I've never seen that happen before.
Yeah.
So I guess it still does happen, but it is in general quite rare.
Yeah.
On the other end, though, Germany also is very well known for its sex clubs and its kinky clubs, especially not so much in Bavaria. Bavaria is really, it's pretty conservative, and there are kinky clubs, there are sex clubs here, but it's not like in Berlin where there's like the Kit Kat Club and like all these other, have you ever heard of the Kit Kat Club?
No.
It's like world famous, like 5 floors of just kinkiness, sex club. Like there's different levels from what I understand. There's different levels of, what's allowed on each floor, but it's very, very famous. And so as Sam and I have talked about wanting to go to what's called a kinky carnival, and that is it's for beginners. It's quite basic, apparently. Yeah. And the focus seems to be more on, outfits. Like you get really done up in your, your holsters and your leather and your masks and whatever.
Yeah.
I went to one of these shops and he put me in a corset, and I was like, I feel so cool right now. Like, but there are definitely, there's like special places where you do that, and that is acceptable, and that is encouraged, and that is like the space where those types of, where nudity does become sexual, but it's like sensual because you're in that space.
Well, and again, that like feels really healthy. Like it shouldn't be a taboo thing to even go to either of these things. I was going to say, I've been to a bathhouse or a sauna space, actually in Canada, and it was similar. It was a Nordic spa. So probably like in that same vein of like, they had like tons and tons of like any kind of sauna you would want to get into, they had it. It was like incredible. And then you would go into these pools after. You did have to wear a bathing suit there though. That was like, you couldn't not wear a bathing suit in that space, which now I'm like wondering if there are any, because Canada's kind of adjacent. Like I feel like they kind of follow some European rules, but are also still like have like some conservative roots essentially. And it was really like, I mean, it felt healthy, like being in those spaces felt healthy, like to go for a whole day to go to a saunas and pools. Like we don't have a ton of that, at least like in my area. But it is becoming more. I do see saunas popping up in massage like service areas where people do massage and facials. The place I just got my facial done, they have like this infrared sauna that they're encouraging people to use. And so like I'm starting to see it in that health and wellness space. But it's not like a community space. It's like you go in by yourself or with like a few people, all right? So like not as quite to that point, at least in our area. And I would say like we're not as I don't live in a very progressive city, I would say. So I don't know that like when it would get to the point where there's going to be group saunas and people like wanting to shower together. Although I would be all for it if that was a thing. Because I do think it promotes that body acceptance and like just being like, it's just a body, like it's not a big deal. And I think that I would love our culture to get to that place, at least in the States.
Yeah. So I see how, having lived in both cultures, I see how beneficial it is to have spaces like this where people can just go and comfortably be nude, be natural, and it is healthy, in my opinion. And so now I'm curious. I want to hear about your experience and your research around sex clubs. Let's
I feel like this is like a time to like transition into, because there are a lot of I love that Germany, especially because you're coming from that place, it has like both, and I feel like they have this very like healthy outlook on both things, and being able to, I don't know if compartmentalize is the right way to put it, but like, hey, there's a place for this and there's a place for this, and both are okay. And we talk about this often, of like, I think people would just feel healthier if they had places to like express these things, like being nude, like going to sex clubs, because I do find there's like health benefits to being able to be in places like this and you feel open and accepted. And so I did like, oh, so my research, I was like, okay, this actually goes back to like biblical times, but I didn't want to bring that whole piece in quite yet. I kind of wanted to keep it more in the last 100 years, because I think I want to go into this like on a deeper level and another time, and to keep it in the realm of like nudity and acceptance. I figured we'll keep it here. But like sex clubs have been around for forever. Like they're not a new way of thinking, and it's not a new lifestyle choice. It's just like, I think you, like you were saying, like it just came back around essentially, maybe in places where it hasn't. Or I think I hear about like non-monogamy being super popular, and that's a whole other topic we can talk about. But really what I started was like in the 1920s, so like 100 years ago. And it started like, not necessarily this is a sex club, but they started as petting parties. Have you heard of petting parties before?
Petting party? That's amazing.
Yeah, so they're called petting parties. They were places where people could like explore pleasure. And so it wasn't necessarily around like having intercourse or like big orgies or anything. It was just around like, let's start exploring pleasure. And it felt really safe, I think, for women, especially. I read a statistic, it was like 92% of like called liberal women, like which were women that went to college, which like of course it was like a different type of woman at that age, like in the 1920s, went to these petting parties, and they were like curious about them. And so that's kind of where I kind of started with this, because I'm like, that's interesting that we have these places where people would just be like, okay, we're gonna like kiss in public. And especially coming from a very Puritan place in the States, I think this is like maybe the beginning of the revolution of like, okay, well, we've suppressed this long enough. Let's start like holding hands.
Well, yeah, the Roaring 20s, that was a really revolutionary time.
Yeah, exactly. And so then from there, like swinging started to become more popular around like World War II, because a lot of people were, going to war. And, I read mostly like one place that it was a lot of like pilots and their wives would start swinging because they high risk of death essentially during that time. And I don't necessarily know how that looked. I don't know that it was like a club per se, but like the idea was there. I think mostly people were going to parties more so than like exclusive clubs. But it started to become a little more, I guess, open in that way, at least like in that during wartime. Which makes a lot of sense, because we got urges.
Totally.
We have natural urges. And I'm glad, like, it's kind of an interesting time to start, I guess. But following that, in the 1950s, and I didn't go deep into like the whole timeline of this, but birth control came out. So sex became available for people, where they weren't having to conceive. I believe I've been told, and I didn't see this in my research this time around, but I thought it was only married women could take birth control, but I could be wrong about that. So I'll come back on that, if that's true or not. But it became more open for people to be able to have sex without worrying about, the family dynamic or having babies. So like the pleasure aspect got to be reintroduced or introduced more. And then again, like you were saying, like the 60s, 70s was like a time. I think I would love to do more research on the 70s, because even I was talking to Justin about this, and I was like, I'm like, 70s were such an interesting time, because there's like this free love aspect. It's like, but it's not, is it the hippie generation? It's like, it's a little like, what was going on? I know there was war going on again at that time too. But they call it the sexual revolution, essentially, which is interesting because it was also mimicked in Germany with saying like a lot of people were let's be nude. So is there just like need for freedom? I think probably a lot where like we just want to be free and feel good, maybe because we've been suppressed for so
Well,
long.
this is also coming right after the whole 50s housewife thing.
Yeah,
right?
true.
So it's like everyone came back from war in the middle of the 1940s, and then there were a ton of babies being popped out. So then the 50s were all about the nuclear family, the housewife, like the woman stays at home and takes care of everything. But it was also the decade of mommy's little helper, and everybody was on drugs to cope with how extremely, oppressive that lifestyle could be for some people. And also a lot of these soldiers were coming back traumatized from war, and there was a lot of PTSD that led to abuse, and there was like a lot happening in these like idealized nuclear families that were definitely not so ideal. So not only was there the sexual revolution of the late 60s into the 70s, but that was also when feminism was really starting to get all rolling. And that, I think, probably played a big role in it too.
Yeah, I can imagine. So yeah, especially like, I mean, women having not being able to express themselves in any way and having to like look a certain way, again, like back to capitalism probably, and like the ideals that we're taught. And I think again, this a whole podcast is about, it's like the ideals that we're taught, but like what, and then us trying to come out of them, but as we get more information or we have more experiences, like you going to a sauna and going to sex clubs, and how that can expand our minds to revolutionize like the way we're living and not feel so suppressed. Anyways, I'm going off. So yeah, it was around the 70s that like sex parties were starting to happen, both like in the house, but also private clubs were starting to pop up. We know more about like that with I think we've heard like people bringing keys to a party and then leaving with a partner. Do you ever hear that? Like,
no, what do you mean?
Or people would put keys in like a bowl and then they would like pick the keys out, and what keys they grabbed were this like the person they're going home with. You never heard that?
God, that's risky.
It's in pop culture. A lot actually, which is something that was interesting in the 70s. They started to put swinging into like sitcoms and like TV shows to like normalize it. So there was this push like from media that like this can be a normal like lifestyle choice. I remember being a kid and remember like watching something, I can't even remember, but being like there was like a clear bowl and people throwing their keys into it, but not like registering like what that's for. But yeah, that's like part of like the swinger, was like a element of the swinger culture. I don't know that people do that like in today's day, but that was sort of a symbol maybe of that time.
I guess I just really want to know how people can do that without emotional involvement. And maybe that's something we can talk about some other time, but I'm like, the whole swinging thing, like, okay, it looks nice on paper, but then how do you keep your emotions separate?
Yeah, I would love to bring someone in for that, because like I've talked to people that do, and I've seen it in real life happen, and I'm like, it's I feel like they've moved through like probably a lot of the shame and the ideal of like monogamy necessarily. So whatever those like what we were taught, they kind of reprogrammed, I think, is a lot of it. But I think there's comes with some maybe not issues, but like natural things that kind of come up, and we definitely will talk about that, because I find it so interesting, and I have a few friends that have been in monogamous relationships that moved to like, I'm only going to be non-monogamous, and we have a few mutual friends that are polyamorous and stuff like that. So it's a really interesting take on relationships, and I always find it so fascinating. I feel like I always could ask a million questions like, how do you do that? But anyway, so I find this kind of interesting. So in the 70s, everyone's kind of like starting to open up and feel free, and I think liberated at this time. Then in the 80s, the AIDS epidemic happened. And it brought people kind of back into like, well, I'm first, like, you know, risk of STD, risk of HIV, which was, you know, like killing so many people at the time. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I'm like, do you think people were getting too free? And like, that's what my feeling towards it was. It's like, was this disease something that came out that was a control aspect? And I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. Or was it something that was just like kind of naturally happened because we're all like starting to like intermingle more? And it's just something that kind of came out of that. Of course, with everything, there's a light and a dark to it, right? So, maybe that was just part of that, like maybe there is something, you know, the negative part of anything, you know. So it did make people kind of, I would say, go more like pull back and have like the society became a little bit more conservative for a little while. But then you got to remember, there's no internet at this point too. So in the 90s and early 2000s, the internet came out. So like the ability to see pornography became more popular. Being able to swing and meet people like in websites or chat rooms started to open up. And that's really when like it started to swing back this way of like, well, we can start to, you know, connect with other people, and it may not just be in like a swinging club or a sex club, but I can like do this online now. So it kind of changed the way that we're like meeting people in general. And we all know that from like dating too. Like, so I found that to be like, I think a good thing. It also makes me wonder of like, there is like so much addiction when it comes to like online sex. And so it kind of an interesting thing of like, now we're having this, again, like the negative, like I want to talk to both sides of like, it's great that we can able, like start talking to people and making this part of feeling more liberated and almost maybe seen too, because maybe you're not seeing people that are like you. But also like then comes a little bit of addiction to being able to always access it, where before we weren't able to always access it. So I think that's kind of an interesting to see like how much is too much, I guess, a little bit. And then today's day, where we see sex clubs now, is there, and I will say this firsthand, like there is a lot of acceptance. Consent, I would say, is the number one rule in a sex club, like a good one. I've only been to two that I've experienced. And so I would say like that is like a major rule and like major acceptance towards like all people, all sexualities, all genders, is a really, like, I would say maybe more modern day take. I don't know how it was back then as far as that stuff goes. Maybe the 70s was a little bit better. But I would say, yeah. So basically, like nowadays, it feels safer. There's more communication. Like you can't just like go up to someone and start having sex with them just because you're in a sex club. And that's kind of what I was going to get into next. Is like, so like, what is the impact of going to a sex club on sexual behavior? Because I think that's the whole idea. Is like we kind of went through this whole, it's good, it's bad. Okay, like now we're here, and how do we deal with sex in a consensual way and keep it fun, but also like, yeah, what are the positives of it? So on the one end, there is more, I would say, like risk of disease. Like I think with anything, it's like we have to take precaution, I would say, like with going to a sex club. I know when I've gone, there's always like availability of lube and condoms. So like that's encouraged. And even the one time I went, like I saw women using like lots of, even when they were just using like hands and mouth stuff, like still using protection. So whether everybody's doing that, I would say it's like not as prevalent. I think people tend to like go like maybe the less protected route. But they do make it available at these clubs. So I guess it's like personal choice of what you want to do with it. But you're also like again, experiencing more bodies, as we know, like more bodies together, like there's more chance of contracting STDs. And I think that's just like in general, anything. If we're more in public, we're like more likely to probably get sick, you know? So yeah.
I just have a quick question about the cleanup in these places, like as it's happening. So you're hanging out, you're doing your thing with or without a condom. You know, you get to the main event, the crescendo. There's going to be some cleanup involved, probably. What does that look like?
Yeah. So that is like a really big, okay, again, like I am no expert in this, and I will just say from my experience, a lot of times, so very similar to when you go to a sauna, they hand you a towel when you go in. So everyone has a towel. So a lot of times you put a towel down when you're like doing your thing, but you also like, everyone has like a different like, hey, this is a dirty spot. They do have sprays that you can like spray down and clean it up, but they also have workers going around all the time. Like you can always get a new towel as well. So a lot of times people are like wiping their area down, cleaning it up. It's crazy. And there's workers like
okay, see, but the vision that you just put into my head was like there's just a bunch of naked people around who are having sex with each other, and then there's just like this little like man in overalls that's like going by the broom. Like, is that
could be in overalls. They could also be in lingerie. They could also be like,
oh, okay. Is it more so are they like part of the aesthetic?
I'm trying to remember the last time we went. I would say most people dress in lingerie. Like even my friend that she works at one, she dresses in lingerie when she goes to work, or something that's like, you know, like in that vein of feeling like they're not wearing. Well, I will say there have been times people are. I mean, they can wear whatever they want. Some of them wear t-shirts and jeans. Some of them wear lingerie. A lot of them wear lingerie. I think because like you're in that environment. Also, I'm sure they get tipped more because they're bartenders. If they're bartending and doing cleanup. But I would
wait. Sorry. So the same people who are making the drinks are also like down on their knees with a spray bottle and a paper towel.
That's a good question. I would say probably not doing the same at the same time, but I think like as far as like what their role is at the job, like I imagine some are just hired to be bartenders. Some are probably just cleaners. Some people check you in. So why don't I go into that? Like I'll tell you about my first experience, and because I think
I'm jumping the gun.
That's okay.
Something I feel is like if you've ever read like a spicy novel, like they never talk about the cleanup, and I'm like, we're missing such an important part of this whole thing.
Yeah,
don't skip the cleanup.
Yeah, it is important. And I think that also creates like safety, which is like one thing I was going to bring up in this is like the whole idea of us walking around naked is like there is so much safety when it comes to being in a sex club rather than like a real club, like a dance club, say. Like there's people watching out for you because it is like a place where people are having sex or intimacy. And there's more like conversation around consent. It's not like a taboo thing to be like, okay, let's talk about sex before we're going to have sex right here. You know what I mean? So I think there is a lot of safety involved, and less sexual crime. As far as what I could read was like, there's a lot less sexual crime in sex clubs because there's so many people like not policing it, but like being like watching out for you essentially, and can tell. And I've seen a lot of people obviously being intimate and can tell. I'm sure they have signs of like that person's in trouble. I need to like go do something about it or whatever. So I would say on like a safety level, it's good, and especially like a cleanliness level because people are cleaning up and, you know, taking care of the space and keeping it fresh, I would say. Because I've never noticed anything feeling like grimy in a place that I've been before. Anyways, so the first time we went was like, so as you guys know, I did this like sex and intimacy training, and there was a lot of people in my group that were in Toronto, and I heard about this Taboo Fest, and I was like, ooh, this sounds like really cool. Like I'm in this world. I want to like go to this festival, Taboo Fest. It's like, I think it's a kind of maybe similar, maybe to the carnival you're talking about. Um, there's also things called hotel parties, which I think is, or hotel takeovers, which may be similar to like the carnival that you were talking about, where it's a little more like introductory and like, there's people on all floors, like just doing all sorts of stuff. But I heard about this Taboo festival, and it's like it travels around Canada, as far as I understand. And in my head, I'm like, oh my God, we're gonna go in. There's gonna be all sorts of things happening. And like we literally we sat outside the door for a second because I'm like, I'm not ready to go in there because it was at like a convention center too, also. So we're walking to this place, and there's also like at the same time, like a baseball game going on. So there's all this crowds of people walking to the baseball game, all in their, jerseys or whatever. And we're walking in the opposite direction to this like balloon, like the archway is like this big balloon. It's dark in there, and you could see like a lot of lights. And I'm like, what are we walking into?
Wait, what time of day is this?
Oh, it's midday. It's like 2:00 in the afternoon. Yeah.
2:00. Okay, and you're going with your
like
partner,
2:00.
right?
What's that?
You're going with your partner?
Yes. Yeah. So I'm going with my partner. And so we sit outside, like waiting to go in, and because I'm like, I don't know, like what's it gonna be like in there? And we walk in, and it's like going to a trade show, essentially. Like you're just like, or like any other trade show you're going to, and there's like booths with like people with like their things that they have. There was like, I mean, it's funny, there was a lot of photography, which was interesting, which like I thought was kind of cool. There were like places where you could buy like sex toys or harnesses. Like there was some more like luxury. I ended up buying this like cool like metal piece that you can wear. They had like that whole section. They had like an area where you could try out different like more like bondage or I'm not thinking impact play things, which is like whips and all that kind of stuff. But it was more like tables set up with a bunch of stuff on it and people to talk to you. So not like intimidating at all. Like we're walking through and I'm like, oh, why are we so nervous? Literally go. It felt like like I was going to a convention for like cars or something like that. Like it was not crazy. The one thing that was interesting is the club that we had heard about, and I think it's pretty well known. It's called Aqua something Lounge. I'm terrible at it. It's in Toronto, and they were there, and they had it kind of a setup where they had like a hot tub, because their thing is they have a pool there and a hot tub and whatever. It's like must be more like a spa. They were there encouraging people to come to like their club, and so we talked to them, the owner, or not the owner, but like the girls that work there and stuff. And it definitely helped us like understand it more. We're like, so people just come here and they like, have sex. Like, what is it? Like, do we like, we're kind of intimidated to like go to this like club. So it was nice that we got to go to this convention essentially before and get introduced to this club without being like, okay, we're just going to go and see what happens, even though we probably would have. It was really nice to like have that intro and ask questions before we're like in the space. I don't even remember what we really asked. I think we just were like, we're nervous, but we want to go. Essentially, like we're curious. And yeah, it was really cool. So like we kind of got this excitement, I think, from going to this space where people are already starting to be open. Again, we're there at 2:00 in the afternoon, and there's not really anybody there. And I think it started picking up later as we were leaving. And so when we got to the club, it was nice because we got dropped off there, and another couple was coming in at the same time. And we're like, okay, people are coming here. This is a thing. Because you're so unaware. It's like, you're like, people actually go do this? Like, we're going to be the only ones in my head. Like, or there's going to be so many people and I'm going to feel really out of place. But it's like anything, you go in and there's like literally a register with plexiglass and you're like exchanging IDs. So it's like this whole, like, there's nothing sexy about that, right? Like, they're just like, oh, it's your first time, we'll give you a tour. So us and this other couple, we kind of are, we sign in and do the whole whatever thing of like getting into the space. And you walk in, you go through like this next door. So it feels really safe because you're like, no one's allowed past the door until you're like approved, essentially. And I think some places are different. Everyone, I think, I'm sure, is different, but this one, you have to get approved, and then you go into the next place, and you walk in, and it's kind of this downstairs like bar mingle area. And the lady's like, I'll give you a tour. So it's less than this other couple. And she's like, get your key for your locker. So we have a locker there. It really feels kind of like a health. You're going into like a day spa, I would say, or like a gym at first. And the whole bottom level is all like the aquatic stuff. So there's a pool, there's a sauna, there's a hot tub, there's a shower. And they tell you that.
Or swimsuits?
What's that?
Nude or swimsuits?
So I would say like, so again, like what you were saying, like I wore lingerie and I wore like, people would wear bathing suits, but it kind of got to the point where it was like almost awkward for people to be wearing clothes. So that's kind of an interesting, I would say, like similarity there of like, it just was like, well, why are like everyone's naked with a towel on? So it kind of just felt like a normal maybe spa would be like for us going to the sauna or something, except they're in the same place. Essentially, it's almost like you take the sauna in the sex club and they put it in the same spot.
Okay.
So the whole bottom floor is like, there's an outdoor pool, there's like I said, like there's all this other stuff, and they sell you not like most people don't like, you know, do any, like you're not really supposed to like do anything down here. This is more for like leisure and relaxation. And then you go up to the second floor, and that's where the lockers are. There's also a big room where there's like a stage because they do like performances and like demos and stuff like that. And there's all these like beds that people can use. And when I say beds, it's not like mattresses with like headboards or anything. It's just kind of like a big mat essentially on a platform. So you kind of feel like you're on a bed, but it's like a big platform. There's a dungeon. The other good thing I like about this place
you just
particularly,
like skirt over that. There's a dungeon, and then also, excuse me,
right?
Back up.
True. Yeah, like bring it back. And it was, I mean, like that whole area. I haven't really been in that area at all. But they have stuff for people to like bring their own stuff for impact play. They have the like crosses, the St. Andrew's cross. Have you ever seen them?
Yeah.
They have a couple of those. They have like a swing. They have like the lighting's kind of cool in there. And it kind of just feels like, again, like you're at a gym and that's like what you do in that room, you know? Like if you really like thinking about it now, I'm like, oh, that's just where people do this exercise.
The weight room. Yeah, got it.
It's the weight room. Yeah, exactly. And I think at that point too, like there was a little maybe bit of shock of like, oh, everyone is just in towels or are naked, or like, you know, like people are coming out of the shower and like they're just nude. And I'm like, I just haven't been around that before. But it wasn't like a sexual thing. Again, like you were saying, it was just like people being nude around in that space was normal. Being in the sauna nude was normal. But I do think at first I was just like, okay, like kind of looking around and being like, okay, this is, my brain, I had to like almost tell my brain, like, it's normal just to walk around naked here. It's normal to just wear a towel.
Had you had like a couple of cocktails?
We did have some wine, I think, before we went. So that helped, I would say. Like, and I'm not like advocating for that. Yeah, I would say like we, you know, I think at the convention we had a little bit of that. And maybe we went for a drink before we went in. I can't remember. They do have a bar there. So like I know I think we had a glass of wine when we got there, because just to take the edge off of like, what are we getting into? And I'm not saying that you have to do that or would want to do that. I don't think it like enhanced the experience at all necessarily, but I think like to ease into any place, like any club you're at, like it kind of made it feel a little more like, okay, we're here, we're relaxing, let's just be relaxed.
Yeah.
And then they take you to the top level, And I wish I could remember the lady that gave us a tour because she was awesome and she just made us feel like this is normal, this is comfortable, and just like this is fun. Go have fun here and like intermingle with people. And um oh, I should mention too, like when you go in, there's also a section where there's like bracelets. So if you wanted to like grab a bracelet and they're different colors of
Oh, love
like
that.
one is like, oh, I'm open to anybody, or like just here to watch, or like whatever the color was correlated with
Yeah.
the bracelet. We didn't do that. It didn't end up feeling like you needed to, but I think as like a safety thing for anyone going in, you could be like, we're just here to check it out, and you can grab that bracelet and no one probably would approach you, or if they did, and I would say like in general, no one's just propositioning you like straight up. Like usually there's a lot of conversation before that would even happen. From my understanding too, like again, fully been there a few times. And so the top floor is really interesting because it's only for couples or single women, which I think bring in another kind of safety like piece for people, because it's like you're there because you're with somebody, and that's like, or like consensual experience. And yeah, and then that has like a bunch of different rooms. Essentially, you're in a house. So like it's just this big mansion and you kind of feel like you're at a house party, essentially, I would say. Like someone's house party that has a lot of beds and a bar and a whole like spa in their basement. But it was a really good experience. And you know, go ahead, yeah.
No, I just wanted to ask, like, tell me about the other people that were there. Like, was it
Yeah.
crowded? Was it mostly empty? Did you see people using the dungeon? Was it fascinating? Like,
Yeah, and I think that's what I
you
was gonna say. Like we got there and we're like, let's just sit and like take in what we're here for and like talk to people, because that was like the whole idea. And that was nice because we sat down and there was like probably three other couples that were just kind of hanging out, all with different experiences, all having been there. The one couple, they're like, we come here, but we don't do anything. We literally just like to be in this environment. And I thought that was so interesting. And it really took, again, the edge off of like, oh, I have to perform. Because I think that, at least as a woman, I sometimes think I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to perform or look a certain way being here, even if I'm just like sitting in my towel or something like that. And so like talking to them,
So this
and
was
they
at
were,
the bar while you're all sitting in towels. That's the environment you're having conversations in.
yeah, I would say, yeah, that's
Okay.
most people will go in, they'll like, if they do a tour, they'll go into like the locker area and undress into whatever they feel comfortable in. I mean, not everyone's just wearing a towel, lingerie, a towel. Some people were wearing bathing suits. Some
Hmm.
people were wearing full clothes, but it was very like not like most people weren't. Like there, but I did see people walking around like wearing like their clothes and stuff like that.
Okay.
Um, but I would say most people are just kind of around in their towels. Um, are they walking around completely nude? Some people are, or laying around completely nude. Yeah. But a lot of times people are like towelless or walking around. I mean, it's not the warmest. Like, I mean, you also
That's
are
what
just
I'm
like,
thinking about. Like, for
yeah,
me, so much of nudity is actually temperature dependent.
yeah,
You get cold so easily.
yeah, yeah. And I was gonna say, I'm like, I mean, it's not like it was cold in there, but like if you're just sitting anywhere, you're like, I want to cover up a little bit just for like the warmth of it, not necessarily like the comfort. I don't know. I think that's was part of it. But yeah, and then we talked to some couples that like it sounded like this is, you know, something that they do often. They go and go to different places in the world to have these experiences. And then there was like another couple where I think they were like a non-monogamous couple that they kind of just go there for. So it was a really nice intro to just talk. I think we talked for like 45 minutes of like the time we were there. So it didn't feel like explicit or like this is what we need to do next or whatever. And like which brings us to like the nudity aspect of like once we were there and settled in, we're like, oh, this is normal. Like our brains both registered like, okay, this is actually normal. And we're like excited to just be able to sit here in a towel and talk to people. And it's like a sexy environment, or like an environment you feel kind of liberated, I think, in general. Kind of similar to the saunas where like I just feel liberated being able to, and healthy, being able to just talk to people in my underwear. And I don't feel sexualized, whether we're talking about it or not. I will say there are like TVs everywhere, and there's like explicit videos playing in the background, so maybe not as normal in that realm. But
Okay.
like I don't know, it just felt okay and felt healthy and it felt safe. I don't know if all clubs are like that, but this one particular, they definitely set the environment to make people feel safe and welcome, and like you know, like emphasizing that like consent is like the key to this all. um so I think that really helped me shift, even having more comfort in my body. And as I was even doing research of this, um like there is, I was listening to a girl of like, I started going to sex clubs and I started to like love my body more. And I thought that was so cool because like where again, like there's not many places you go except for maybe a sauna, you get to go and like see all different types of bodies, naked bodies. Because you know, our TVs, our medias only show us so many types of naked bodies, especially the porn industry, or like, you know, then certain things are fetishized or whatever. It's like, honestly, we're just all out here trying to like love at ourselves. And it really, you know, there's no correlation of being more sexy when you're all just sitting around naked. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, um, I can see like where it can get to actually be very healing for people to go to like places like this. Or me and Justin talk a lot about, me and my partner talk about just the bonding experience you have. I imagine you have that even with people you've gone to saunas with, of like there's a bonding experience you get from going to an experience that feels maybe taboo, but then also becomes kind of normalized a little bit.
Yeah, I
So
agree
I
with
think
that.
that's really cool. So I like that aspect of it where it's like we just take off all of our clothes, take off all the things that like make us us, and we're all just kind of down to the skin. Like, you know, I think that's a beautiful thing. We're taught so much to have, you know, the nails done and all like the certain things, and you have that or whatever. And like boil it down, and we're just like all just a bunch of skin and like bodies. And I don't know. It was very when it comes to like the nudity piece, I really think it was a healing experience, and it's opened me up to feel more comfortable being naked in general, I would say. And it seems like that's kind of the consensus. And it's not, again, about necessarily the sexual piece. Yeah, of course, people that go there are going to have like a little bit of a kinky eye, I would say, but you don't have to. You could just even want to be in an environment that feels liberating, and that I think would be enough. Um,
So that's
so
what I want to
yeah.
ask. Like, how was it to watch people perform sexual acts on each other, like
Mm,
in person, as opposed to on a screen?
yeah, that was so interesting. Again, like I think it comes to the performative aspect where it felt real and it wasn't performative. I'm sure some people were, but I don't know, it felt really normal to see, and it was like cool to just see like again anybody kind of doing it, and it's not like a you know, like very typical porn star experience, I guess.
Mhm.
And people taking breaks, or like maybe things not even working the right way, or like whatever. Um, and multiple people like in one on one bed, and like you're like, oh wow. Honestly, what I've taken from it is just like the enjoyment of watching people have pleasure,
Okay.
and in a way that feels really real because you can see it in people's face, like when they're experiencing pleasure.
Mhm.
And I don't know. It just feels like, wow, they're having a good time. You can tell they're having a good time. You can hear them having a good time.
Well, that was the thing, the hearing part. I feel like I would have no problem like watching. I think I would find it really interesting, but I'm like, I don't think I'd be able to keep it together if I had to listen to multiple people having sex at the same time. Like, I would be such a fit of
laughing.
giggles.
Yeah.
Like, how did you keep, or were you a fit of giggles? Because I'd be so, I wouldn't be able to keep a straight face.
I mean, I think this is one thing that I thought was really interesting. And it comes back to like even that playfulness of being a kid. A lot of people will ask, like, do you want to play with us? You know, like I feel like that's like, you know, like a statement. And you probably have heard that before. And it wasn't until like maybe another time that we went, it wasn't after that first time, it just really clicked of like, they're really about just people like being in their pleasure and playing and exploring and not about this like domination or control over it or over your body. They're just like, come play with us. Like, we love to give you pleasure. Like, that's kind of we met this woman the last time we went, and she was just like such a like we don't do any of that kind of stuff. We don't like partake, but just like the way she was talking to us, and just like it just clicked. Something clicked of like you know, this is really just for like joy and love and fun than it is for, yeah, like this, you know, maybe domination's like a kink of yours, but like it's really not about like even like jealousy. Like it's not about making another person jealous, where you may feel that in like maybe in a dance club or something, you're like, oh, I'm gonna make them jealous or something like that. It's really not about that at all. It's really just about the fun, I guess, and joy. And I think that's like one thing that really clicked again, more recently for us anyways. So
if you're
so
comfortable
cool.
sharing, how did it feel to be the recipient of eyes on you?
Yeah, I'll share a little bit about that because we're being raw, I guess, right?
You don't have to.
Yeah. I would say I learned a little bit about myself as far as like what even me and my partner, I think would be, it's like interesting conversation after of like what is comfortable for one and not for the other. I love again like anonymity, like the anonymous. So I think that's kind of fun because you're there and you don't know anybody, but then it gets to a point where like, oh, I talked to a bunch of people now. Like they kind of know me now. And it's like, yeah, right. They're like, hey, Jill, high five. No, I'm just kidding.
He really got you there, huh?
Right.
Nice one. Finger gun.
You look good. You look good out there. Good game. Good game. I would say
it's not so different from the baseball game after all. It's like, oh, home run.
Right. You're just like, wow, that you like you had a good one there, or like not so much luck this time.
Struck out, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, that's never happened, but interesting. I would say I would say there's, again, I think like putting it on, like you don't have to do anything. I would say for me, like it did feel very like erotic and kind of like, oh, I'm not supposed to be doing this. And it was like fun in that way. And I really don't think I noticed so many of the people around me so much, especially when it was like more anonymous, I would say. Because you're just a bunch of people. And I think, again, people are there to experience other people's pleasure. And so it almost felt like, oh, you get to, like, you're enjoying this just as much as I am. So it doesn't feel like, you know, like I'm doing this and you're like, oh, I just caught them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind
Okay.
of like they're also there to experience that. And with I don't know, I don't think it was actually very surprising how much I didn't care. I will like when it gets down to it, I'm like, I don't know. It didn't bother me. I didn't think about it that much. There had been times I had like times that we have been there and I'm like, oh, I kind of don't feel comfortable yet or here. And maybe that was just like, me having my own thing going on, whatever. Not necessarily because of the people, but just because of like maybe just what I was experiencing at the time. And I think that's like quite valid that like there are sometimes you're going to feel really insecure and there's going to be other times you're feeling like confident. And I think that's not has anything to do with that space. I think it just has to do with like a personal thing maybe going on. But I would say most of the time I felt pretty liberated and confident with being in that space. Of course, there's places that are there that are a little more like you're kind of in a corner and then there's places where you're like, way more in the open of like, whoa, I see this is like a place to be watched essentially.
Yes, that's what I want to know. There's like
Yeah,
different variations of, being observed, right?
exactly. Yeah. And I think there was a space where you could go to a completely private room with a bed and you could bring people in there, I guess, with you and stuff like that. Which is like, it's funny because that's like, I'm like, oh, we're definitely going to go somewhere private. Like we'll get like, feel kind of sexy down here and then maybe go to something more private. And that wasn't the case because like it's kind of again, it's like we're playing in a playground essentially. Like we're
Yeah.
all in this pleasure-filled playground and we just like want to be in like it's like a kids. I don't know. I know that sounds weird, but it's a very, I would say, playful in a lot of ways. Playful pleasure. But
Yeah.
I would recommend
This
it.
what's that?
I would recommend it, I guess.
Okay. I know I'm feeling pretty much like, okay, I need to talk to my husband about this and figure
Yeah.
out like I think we need to work our way up to it. We've been talking about wanting to go to the kinky carnival first, which is more
Yeah.
about just like, as far as I understand, it's not explicitly sexual, it's just kinky.
Yeah.
So
That's a big difference too. I would like that's definitely a good time for another episode is like what kink doesn't necessarily mean sex.
yeah, we should
So
talk
that's a
about that.
whole other thing. Yeah, we'll definitely
Cool.
talk about it sometime.
I have another question, very non-sexy question I want to ask you is how much does it cost to go to one of these
Oh
things?
yeah. I would say most I don't know most because I'm not like I said, I don't know per se. I would say so I think the one we went to is like $100 for the couple, $120 a couple. So I guess there is like that piece of like there is like a barrier of entry. So like not
Right.
everybody's able to go. Also, I'll say that like for single men, they can only go there during the week. So not on Fridays and Saturdays. You can't go as a single man. I think in most clubs, it's kind of similar rule. So that's kind of an interesting thing that I've noticed. Again, I didn't research the rules on that end, as far as like what most clubs are like, but it can get a little like I actually was reading about like these exclusive clubs of being like, your membership is somewhere between $10,000 and $250,000 a year. Again, who knows what they're doing in those places, but memberships can like we got a membership to a place because you had to, and it was like $100, and then you also have to pay to get in. So there is like this, you want to be there, you're paying to be there, so like you wouldn't, be just wandering into a place like that. So I think
Mhm.
that's also part of it, was like, you know, everyone that's there wants to be there, I would
Yeah.
say, you know. So, but
Yeah.
yeah. And I imagine you have a ton of that stuff in Germany. So like I'm excited to see if you explore it. And I would say like going in with an open mind of I don't have to do anything. I just get to kind of observe and we can leave. And that was like, I think between us, it was like, if we feel uncomfortable, if either of us feel uncomfortable, we can leave. And I think that was like a good way, like no questions asked kind of thing. So having a boundary around going, again, I don't want to get into too much of it without, staying on topic and stuff, but I would say having that conversation also helps you have bonding, especially if you're going with a partner, or like even if it's not maybe it's just a kink partner or like a friend or whatever, having those open conversations of like what if, or like what feels comfortable for you, like maybe we're just here to observe for the first time, maybe we just kind of like make out in the corner or something like that. Maybe that's our, and then we can evaluate while we're there and stuff. So, but I would say overall, like I would say the pluses of like, if you're looking to create an experience where you're feeling more liberated, or you're looking for deeper connection with a partner, if you're looking for a safe place to explore your sexuality, I would say this is like an option for people.
Oh, I really like that part. That's important.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like, so you mean more if you're like bi-curious or poly-curious or something like that.
Yeah, I would say so. Like, I mean, we've met people that are like just entering that lifestyle, or like they know they kind of, maybe they don't have a partner, but a lot of clubs will have like specific nights where they try to set it up of maybe it's a night where you're looking for a third, or you're looking for this specific kink or idea, fantasy or whatever. So that's also like worth mentioning. Like you could go on a night that's newbie night. I think there's like a night where it's like everyone's coming that like never been there before. So you get that shared experience.
Oh,
Um, and I think there is that shared experience of going and you're like, oh, like there's something here between like we get to talk about this in a safe place. Um, and yeah, it's so interesting. It's such an interesting culture. Um, and yeah, I was just gonna go into like, would I go every week? I don't know that I would go every week if I had it near me, but it's fun a few times a year to just like have as an option. The one guy that we met, he's like, it's kind of cool for the girls that want to come because it's like cheaper for a woman to go on her own. And I'm like, you could just go to the pool and the sauna and the hot tub, especially this one, and just like for like $20. You can do
nice.
it. You know what I mean? Like, and maybe you have like a little bit of you want to be in like a sexy, consensual, comfortable environment. Maybe this is a good option for you, depending on what your place offers. So,
I love that. Okay, so
yeah.
now we have to ask the audience, would you go, well, first of all, would you go to a nude sauna in Germany where
Yeah.
you can wear a towel, but then, you know, when you're in and out of pools or in and out of showers, you're in the nude. Would you do that? And or would you go to a sex club like the one Jill described? And then
Hmm.
Jill, I have to ask you, sex clubs and saunas, do we keep the wall? Do we build a window, or do we break down this wall, man?
Yeah. You know, I was thinking about this before we kind of jumped on. I'm like, I'm just going to see what happens when we walk in, like when we finish this up. And I would say it's interesting because I don't feel like I would want to completely take the wall down for myself. I don't know that I want to make sex clubs my lifestyle necessarily. Saunas, maybe. I wouldn't mind being a sauna girl. I'm not gonna lie about that. I think there's a lot of benefits on a health aspect of me for me. Um, but I don't know that I would just want a window. Like I think like I know this is not a word one we're using. I'm like, I want a door. I want to be able to go in. I want to not just be able to see it. I want to experience it. I would say with the sex clubs, I'm not at the point where I want to take the wall completely down in my life. I would say for the saunas, I would probably take the wall down. If they were near me, I would go. I would do it. Maybe I should build one. We need one. Clearly, we need to like heal this need for nudity or like whatever. So yeah, I think that's where I would land for both of those. What about you? What are you feeling?
I love
What did
that.
you have before for the sex clubs? I don't remember.
Sex clubs, I felt like there was a window.
Yeah.
Right now, I think that we had also talked about having an option of like building a door that has like a chain on it.
Yes.
So you can pop it open.
Yeah. Like I'm not watching. I want to like be in there sometimes, but I also want to be able to come on this side.
Yeah, I think we should build a door.
Yeah.
I feel also like I'd like to build a door. I think that this is something for me, like you're further ahead in this than I am because you've studied sexuality, you've studied pleasure, and you've also gone to these spaces. You're a boudoir photographer. Like maybe you don't give yourself credit for that, but I give you credit for that of like you definitely have like a much more open mindset towards sexuality than like the average American.
Yeah.
And I'm getting there slowly towards both sexuality and nudity simply because of where I live now. Like it's just sort of if I want to live comfortably in Germany and in German society, this is just always going to kind of be part of it. And so it's sort of up to me to just get more comfortable as I go. So I'm pacing myself and working on it and enjoying the process too. Like
Yeah.
it's fun to be able to learn new things and open my mind in my mid 30s. Like this is
Yeah.
where most of us become pretty cemented in our ways. So I'm pretty happy that I can still broaden my horizons, even if I'm a little bit uncomfortable at first. There's just so many benefits to exploring non-sexual nudity and also consensual sexuality in group settings. And it can really broaden our horizons and also just give us that moment of pause even of like, oh, I used to think this way about this topic, but now that I have new experiences and new information, I can think a completely different way about this topic. And that sort of flexibility, I think, is what keeps us young and it's what keeps us
Yeah.
like growing. And that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it is. Like it doesn't end. It doesn't end like with, whatever when you turn 30 or whatever. Because and I think that's exciting. I think it's exciting to be able to like, oh, like I'm gonna kind of push an edge and I'm open to pushing an edge. And I would say, for sure, like I studied with the Somatica Institute, which is all about like opening up your sexuality. And I was doing that a little bit before, like just in curiosity of just like learning about it, not even doing anything. It was just more like I'm so curious what people are doing these days. I don't even know where that curiosity necessarily came from. I think it's a little bit like um natural curiosity that I've had most of my life. But I would say going into especially like that somatica class, I learned so much about myself, and so many of the people that were in that class were from around the world, all having very different experiences, some feeling still very conservative, and like being like, that's okay for me. And I think that's the liberating part, even about any of these spaces. Like, I get to go in there, push my edge, and like, hey, I get to decide that this is okay for me or not like someone else deciding. Which I think this is what this whole point of this whole podcast is about, is like we get to decide what barriers we get to put up rather than someone else putting them up for us.
Love that. Well said. Thank you, Jill. This was such a good conversation.
Thank you for having it with me. It's so fun to talk about. I feel like I could talk about this stuff all day, and we're going to keep doing it. So I'm excited.
I know I was about to say, maybe not all day, but plenty of episodes.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
See you soon. Bye.
I don't know how to stop recording. I think this button. I'll tell them to cut that out.